everyone, Father Jared coming to you. And patience, it's a virtue we all want and a virtue that we all wish we could practice. And I think even people who have a great deal of patience still see themselves as impatient or wish they could be more patient. And I think whenever we look at the virtue of patience, it's got to be an acknowledgement that it has to start with us now. And I think it's also properly understanding patience as a virtue that ultimately isn't one that's kind of like just means that we allow ourselves to always be trodden over, but instead it's kind of this mean between this tendency to just simply, to like placate, let's call it that. I think placate would be like a good word, to just constantly placate everybody around us and just give. And then the other extreme, which would be extraordinary, like selfishness, in which we become so turned in on ourselves that we have no patience for other people's, whatever it may be, whether it's time and all those kind of things, right? So it's a virtue that ultimately, and as all virtues do, it lies in between two extremes. And as such, we see that patience is ultimately a virtue that has to be cultivated within our lives, because some of us may struggle more with giving people our time, or some of us may struggle more with being able to say like, I've got to get to this other thing, I've got to get my work done, or whatever it may be, right? So there's like this balance between those things. And so I think patience ultimately finds its genesis, if we want to call it that, in kind of two places. So one is interiorly, it like develops, they both develop interiorly, but first one is like interiorly, like developing this patience with ourselves, this ability to recognize our own weakness and to work on overcoming that, but then not to be scandalized, not to be defeated, and not to be downtrodden by the fact that we fall short, right? So to recognize that like, oh shoot, I really messed up, but then not letting that fact of I just messed up really bad, like all of a sudden handicap me in a way that keeps me from being able to keep moving forward, like, right? So, oh shoot, I messed up that conversation with somebody. And what can happen is like, oh no, we begin just thinking about it over and over again. And we don't tend to, then the person that's sitting right before us, we forget to run an errand that we were supposed to do. We forget to answer this email that we were going to get to, like whatever it may be, right? But due to our inability to be patient with ourselves, like, okay, I messed up. What do I do about that? Okay, that conversation didn't go well. I should probably let it simmer for a few days and I'll call them, apologize, and talk to them again, right? So it's like, okay, that's how we go. So I think it's one of those instances. So that's where we start there. And then the other extreme, the other instance is one in which, then we learn to still keep moving forward. So make a decision to say, okay, here's how I'm going to do better with that in the future. And then the ability to let it go and be patient with ourselves. And then that patience with ourselves then allows us to be more patient with others. Whenever, that person on the road is, cuts us off or something like that, and we want to get really mad, and then it's like, actually I did that like a week ago because I was in a big hurry and I really need to get to a meeting I was late for. I need to really get home and start dinner or whatever it was. And so we can look at those instances and say like, oh, okay, like I see that within myself, and because I can see that weakness within myself, I can then bestow it on others. And so patience with self then allows us to, over time, become more patient with others. And then the other aspect of patience, and I think this is an important one that I'm beginning to discover more and more of, is, and I think Father Mike Schmidt has a great video on this, and I think a number of other commentators have talked about it, like Jocko Willink and a number of other people. But anyway, sorry. But like the importance of discipline, which then allows us to be more patient. What I mean by that is, when we live a disciplined existence, we then, like, that ultimately carves up space. So whenever I follow like my ideal disciplined day, it's like, okay, I do these things in the morning. I get my prayer time in, I get a lot of these other things. And obviously I have other times of prayer throughout the day to center myself again. But it's like, okay, I take care of that. And then it's like, okay, what is like if I don't have a meeting right away, then it's like, what's the number one task I need to get done. That's just kind of the busy work thing. Like, okay, it's this thing. And then if I sit down, I do that. And then like, okay, I got some time to answer emails. And so, okay, get the emails done. And then it's like, okay, got that meeting out of the way. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I actually have now the freedom to work out, to begin working on other things, to like, oh, okay, I can actually, like this person just stopped me on the street or called me. Because I was disciplined leading up to this, I now have the availability to wait them. Or discipline can also be manifested in like, I don't have to be involved with that, so I'm going to let go of that. Let go of that piece and embrace another piece. What I mean by that, like let go of a piece is like, I'm speaking in my own head language there, but what I mean is that we ultimately embrace, like we let go of like, okay, this is a task that I can do, but ultimately, for example, like at work, so this is a task I can do, but really this other person could do it and do it better and has, like, that's their competence, right? So I hand it off to them. So one thing I don't have to do, and because of that, that then allows me to, oh, okay, I can take care of this, right? It allows me to take care of the more important things, the things most essential, and learning to say no, like there's the discipline to saying no, like, sorry, can't do that meeting this week. I've got too much, like going on. So that discipline frees me up to then be more available for what comes to me, what comes to us in the moment. So these kind of things, so that discipline, which ultimately is interior, right? So I said the first one was interior. The first one's really kind of more interior, but the second one is interior disposition that is then lived out in our practical day-to-day experience. And so those little behaviors, those little things allow us to then experience, like patience in a greater way, and where we have greater availability. Because I know I'm often most impatient whenever I've packed my schedule way too full, whenever I've done way too much stuff, then I'm really impatient because I haven't made that space to get done what I need to get done and haven't said no to the things I should have said no to. So that kind of discipline within our life is what we need, and it's like something I'm still messing up all the time, and it's something that we all can grow in. But I think the discipline or the virtue of patience is kind of rooted in those two things. Like, one, patience with ourselves, and willing to recognize our own weakness, which helps us to see the weakness of others, and discipline, which allows us to have the availability to give others our time and whatever else, because we disciplined ourselves well enough to curb whatever. So I hope that makes sense. I kind of feel like I rambled a lot, but hey, that's this week's video. So I hope everybody's doing well and have a great week. Thanks. Bye.